Well, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm Archie in our South London studios. But interestingly, there are lots of issues that we're going to be talking about. If you live in an environment where the military, because of your hairstyle or your haircut, I can decide that let's decide to now be your own baba and cut it differently
Because of your hairstyle.
because we don't like it. You call that what? Democracy? Really? Okay. Well, it is Starr Radio UK. Now let's start with a story. The Nigerian Union of South Africans have announced the death of another Nigerian in South Africa following a vicious attack on him in his shop. Now, yesterday I came out by that story, I think during the latter part of the program, and I did talk to a couple of people after the program as to whether the xenophobic attack that seems to be going on in South Africa every time they have some challenges or sort of some people just think, oh, look, we've not got ourselves a job. And we have people from other nations who are there who have established their own jobs, their own businesses, and have even employed some of them, and they're going to behave that way towards them. Then I ask myself the question, why? So can you give us a bit of the background to that story, please?
So just to narrate exactly what he was explaining there, he was saying in our language, which is Yoruba. And again, sorry for the sound delay to the other transmission that we were doing from here to the other platform as well. The studio is now back fully in terms of the audio. So this young man was explaining how the South Sea, known as the South Africans, have thrown what we call arsenal into not just a shop, a whole building was completely burnt down. It's not the first time, according to him, and it's not also that particular building alone, but this particular story that you've just talked about is on other Nigerians and the Association of Nigerians in South Africa complaining about the killing and the massacre of someone that is also being killed by South Africans. So the question again is, what is the Nigerian government doing to make sure that those that are living in other part of African countries are well safe and well secured? But that is the question that a lot of Nigerians are asking this morning.
Interesting. As I said yesterday, I spoke to a few people, and they said depending on which area that you are, you see such things. But when we talk about African unity, we talk about the fact that blacks, so that you see that we stand for our own, and then when we see some of our own being suppressed or something like that happening today. I remember back in the day, because we were students at the time when apartheid and everything was on, and I mean, we go to some of the demonstrations, we do a lot of things just to bring that awareness. But when it gets to a point where we have people behave in this way as if nobody has done any good for them. That is quite worrying, you know.
And just to buttress on that, we had a town hall meeting on Friday with the wife of the late Chief MKO Abiola, a philanthropist, one of the fairest election ever had in Nigeria in 1993, but it was eventually killed in the custody of the military after the death of Abacha while he had a coffee or a tea, according to the information. The wife did talked about that the wife of Mandela kept coming back almost every time to University of Ibadan to try to remind the student that the husband is still being held, as a prisoner of conscience, just as as a political prisoner, just as Chief Sunday Igboho is held as we speak right now in Benin Republic, which will be about 7 months tomorrow. And that, just to buttress on what you said, and it was just not just Nigeria, but Nigeria also funded quite a lot of money pumped into South Africa during those era of the apartheid. But the question then is, why should this injustice be patel on not just Nigerians, but most African countries that are living in South Africa, is a question that we hardly can get an answer to.
Well, listen to Starr Radio UK. We know who or which people are actually oppressing them, who have oppressed them in the past, but they wouldn't fight them to fight their own. That is sad and it's a shame there. But we hope that our leaders set up and they have a jaw to stop this thing from continuing. It is Starr Radio UK. Now, interestingly, when African leaders are voted into power and decide not to do what the promises that they pledged to the people before being voted into power, and they think that because it's constitutional, don't charge me, wait for another 4 years or another 5 years, as it might be on the African continent, whichever, depending on where you are. And then some people look at the whole thing that is going on thinking that we cannot wait for another 5 years, because another 5 years, another 4 years for this, there will be total calamity. And therefore some military will then step in, as we've seen in some part of West Africa. But Buhari, who once also came into power by that same means, now he's saying, European leaders, you need to crack your whip on them. I mean, be strong, be hard on anyone who leaders or who protest. Now, how fair is that, Yoruba?
Well, let me take you back to those that probably might not understand what you're saying. The current president, as we speak right now, is President Muhammadu Buhari, that is currently in Belgium with other African leaders. And there you're quite right. The headline, that we touched on says, Buhari asked European leaders to punish African coup plotters. I would have loved him to be punished in 1983 when Buhari literally took over, on a military coup, December 31st, 1983, from a civilian government of President Shehu Shagari. It was coordinated by Buhari and key officers of the Nigerian military and led to the ousting of a democratically elected government. So the question is, what has changed? Well, people might say, maybe as at that time, they believe in their vision of a military coup that have kept Nigerians to where we are today. Because after Buhari, we saw Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida is still in Mina, and a lot of Nigerians leaders, according to them, are still visiting him to get their, what we call like a symbol before they become the president. But if Buhari was punished then in 1983, he wouldn't have been coming out today to be talking about, people that are planning military coup needs to be punished by the European as we speak. And as I said, then tension between the civilian and the military aspect of the Nigerian government were escalating. One major incident was when General Muhammadu Buhari, the commanding officer of the 3rd Division, cut off food supply into the neighboring Chad, an action caused by border dispute between Nigeria and Chad that was opposed by the President Shehu Shagari. Buhari disregarded the orders of Shagari to avoid entering Chadian territory, and you can now see that it seems a civilian president now is speaking into the European community, and this is what he has to say. For many decades, our continent has been deprived of political stability, social economic development due to terrorism and violent extremism, according to Buhari at that event. President Muhammadu Buhari has called on European leaders to support African Union measure to end what we call the unconstitutional leadership changes on the continent. I would have loved him to be punished in 1983 when that coup took place that led to where a civilian government was overthrown by this Buhari in 1983.
Now, is it that some of these African leaders are scared because there is something that pushes people to take that action? The military, I mean, if you take what happened in Mali, you take what is happening in other parts of the West African sub-region, you see that the leaders who were voted into power might have twisted the constitution to favor them and do things that way that they want. And now that they can see that the citizens are not sitting down any longer, are angry about it, and the military are backing them to do whatever they are doing, now it seems that they are scared and it's now calling on Western countries or European countries to crack down on them.
Well, I mean, you're quite right. I mean, when you look at when the current national national leader of the APC, Bola Tinubu, that went out to bring in Buhari, and then the question a lot of Nigerians are asking is whether he himself, that says he's a kingmaker, that wants to contest and take over from Buhari. It looks like after bringing Buhari, we saw the inflation has gone up, which we're going to be discussing as well during this headline. We saw also food has gone up, and at the moment, it seems that whenever they come into the civilian era, there's now a kind of a tone down to how they were operating. What Buhari could not understand is when he took over from a civilian government and then the other military coup, they've literally damaged the psyche of so many Nigerians, and so many Nigerians, as at the time, had to run away for their dear lives because Buhari was literally chasing almost everybody. And that was what happened when MK Abiola, that we discussed earlier, was told to go and contest, by, his military friends, because he was a military, he had a lot of military friends. Ibrahim Babangida promised him that I would allow, the civil election to take place, but only for him to annul the election. Till date, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida could not tell us the reason why that annulment ever happened, and that again was one of the fairest elections that we ever had in Nigeria.
Listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. 18 minutes by the top of the hour. Your favorite African and Caribbean radio station, Mr. Olayomi Koiki, bringing you updates from Nigeria in our North London studios, and I'm Archie here in the South studios. But we have got lots of issues, stories, and news that we were going to be looking at. But if you think that maybe the call by the president that look, the Western country or the European countries to crack their whip on anybody who conducts a coup d'etat, if you think that is good, I want you to tell me. I want you to post a comment there. We want you to, even if you want to comment, yes, make your comments heard. Let us know what you think about it. Or you think that they promise they are failing to deliver, and therefore, if the public are upset, knowing that they have a way of skewing elections and making people, bribing people and doing all that stuff that they do, and therefore elections that we go in for, we know for sure that it is not free and fair, then we want to hear from you as well. Okay, Yomi, let's move on to some of the other stories making the round. Over to you, sir.
Well, it is still Starr Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. 19 minutes past 11. Federal government, PDP, clashed as economy grows by 3.4%, the highest in the last 7 years. According to what we know, the federal government and the People's Democratic Party on Thursday exchanged words over a report by the National Bureau of Statistics in which it was stated that the Nigerian gross domestic product grew by 3.4% in 2021, the highest in 7 years. The question is, how does this reflect to Nigerians on the street? I'm talking about buying of food, buying of wares, the basic commodities of life, whether you're buying a gas or a crude oil, a petrol. The GDP report released by the National Bureau of Statistics yesterday also showed that the economy weakened in the fourth quarter of 2021 after recording a decline in the third quarter of last year. So in 2015, the annual GDP stood at 2.7%. It contracted to minus 1.58% in 2016. rebounded slightly to 0.8% in 2017, grew to 1.9% in 2018, and 2.7% in 2019. Again, as impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and other areas, also in terms of the insecurity in the country. So it doesn't seem the PDP are really pleased in terms of this figure, and I'm sure so many Nigerians will also be asking whether this reflects to Nigerians on the table. They also emphasize the impact of increased economic activities, high oil prices during the reference year as well. According to them, the GDP figures are not a sign of better economic condition, as many Nigerians didn't witness any improvement in their well-being during this year under review. Again, Nigeria still stands as #1 capital poverty of the world. That takes us to Borno State. Yeah, you will wonder why out of 17,000 primary school teachers, according to the almost 27 local government, only 5,439 are competent out of the 17,229 primary school teachers, according to information coming out of Borno State. A commissioner pointed out 7,975 teachers were qualified but require further training, adding that 3,815 others were unqualified and could not be trained. The question then is, what could be the reason why we have this incompetence across the country when teachers are meant to be training the children, and that means they do not have what it takes to be? The Borno Commissioner for Education, Lawan, has revealed that only 5,439 of the 17,000 teachers in the primary school are competent to teach. Mr. Lawan disclosed this while submitting the report of the special committee to the governor, Babagana Zulum, Thursday yesterday in Bauchi State. We're going to take a couple of more stories and the headline before we come back again to you in the studio. As our gunmen in military uniform killed my husband weeks after opening a new petrol station in Ogun State. This is the video which we might probably not be able to play, but I'm sure a lot of Nigerians have experienced that. And like I said, when we go into the social media, I'll be talking about the experience of a Nigerian that was stopped by the military during a checkpoint. And out of every one of them, he was accused, his mother was abused, and not just that, scissors was used to take off some of the hair on him as well. Also, we've been talking about these Abba Kyari drug businesses. PSC orders fleeing ASP, arrest, suspend Abba Kyari and his associate. Currently, he's still being held as we speak right now. The Police Service Commission, PSC, has announced the suspension of 2 officers working under the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, in the Intelligent Response Team of the Force Investigation and Intelligence Department of the Nigerian Police Force. The commissioner has also directed the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, to ensure the arrest of an Assistant Superintendent of Police, John Umaru, who is currently at large. The suspended police officer, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Sunday Ubo, and Assistant Superintendent of Police, James Bauer. The decision was based on their alleged involvement in a drug deal being investigated currently by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. We do know that this Abba Kyari, well connected, a former Deputy Commissioner of Police that was using his position to allow cartel to bring in drug through Brazil using the route of Ethiopia into Nigeria until he was busted in January this year. We're going to see how far this case is going to go, because already, as we do know, Hush Puppy is a celebrity influencer that was using stolen funds across the globe, living at large in Dubai, was also using this same particular Deputy Commissioner for Police. As we speak right now, Hush Puppy was picked up in Dubai by the Interpol. Is currently facing charges of money wiring and money laundering in America, and he will be sentenced very soon. But the Americans were interested to also speak to Abba Kyari because of some of the involvement with himself and Hush Puppy, until this allegation of drug peddle also came up. Is it because the Nigerian government have known about this before, or is it just a way to hide away Abba Kyari from facing the crime he has committed with Hush Puppy in America, time will tell. I'm going to take a couple of more and then come back again to you in the studio. If you've just joined us, this is Star Radio UK. The Friday edition is coming up to 11:25 a.m. this morning as we continue to review some of the headlines coming out of Nigeria. A lot of Nigerians outside are still asking the question, as we do know, time check on our Star Radio UK in terms of how many days before the election, whether an election should hold a referendum or what is the next step in keeping Nigeria together. 357 days, 12 hours, 33 minutes, 43 seconds before the next election. But a lot of Nigerians are saying we probably would prefer to have a self-determination, which is not a crime. So I'm going to take one more, come back again now to you in the studio. Once again, Tinubu Presidential Campaign Director General Abdulmumin Jibrin, he was interviewed a couple of weeks ago, but he was unable to give us some of the questions being asked. How did Tinubu make his money? Because some allegations and information coming out says he's making to the tune of 2.5 billion naira on a monthly as a tax collector, because his company, Alpha Beta, is the one using to work with the Lagos State government in terms of their taxation and anything to do with taxing in Lagos State, and that is part of what he's making. The Federal Housing Authority has now summoned Abdulmumin Jibrin, a former federal lawmaker who is also now executive director of the agency, over allegation of misconduct. In a letter that was dated February 15 and addressed to Jubril Saliu, the chairman of the disciplinary committee, said Jibrin, who is the Director General of the Bola Tinubu Support Council, is being summoned because he failed to respond to a query that was earlier issued to him. Let me come back slightly to the studio. If you've just joined us, it is Star Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. I'm going to pick one comment as I join you back in the studio. Olatunji, our professor, says, we don't want corrupt policemen in Nigeria police force. The police force need reforming in Nigeria. Likewise, he says, don't forget, Bola Tinubu also support ex-president Goodluck Jonathan to come to power until there was misunderstanding between the two men. He is now saying the kingmaker also wants to become a president. But on Saturday last week, there was some kind of wetness coming out of his back that we talked about. That is still giving a kind of a whether his health is okay, because a lot of Nigerians are saying we do not want another president that spend more time in London for medical treatment.
Well, listeners, it is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios for you. But interestingly, do you know how old is he?
Oh, how old is he? Is a something that himself he can't give us. How old is he? So if Tinubu cannot give us how old is he, it will be so difficult for me to also say this is the age of Tinubu, because a lot of people have been asking why even on his Wikipedia there has been a lot of more than 10 times changes on it. But according to what he says, Bola Adekunle Tinubu is a Nigerian politician, the current national leader of the All Progressive Congress. He was one time the Lagos State governor from 1999 to 2007. From what I can tell, he was born 29 of March 1952, making him 69 years old. But there's a lot of doubt on that age. We call it football age.
That's the football age, of course. You have African players coming to the West to come and play, and then they tell you, that is their age. They play for 2 seasons, and then they finish. Well, we hope that Tinubu's case is not like that. But let's start already UK. Now, when it comes to, you are looking at the figures when it comes to the economy of Nigeria and the fact that people are struggling. Now, we know that this part of the world, we know what has caused the inflation to high up because of the crude oil prices or the gas prices and everything. So we know that those are things that have come in, and we know that the COVID and everything played a role in it. But at least here we know that they do diligence when it comes to, dealing with the economy. Now, do Nigerians as a whole, because I was looking at one story, I think it was from Ghana, and somebody was saying that, oh, Ghanaians are okay, and that everything was all right with them, and I was asking myself the question, where do these people live? Because if somebody is saying that, look, I can only have 1 square meal a day, And it's not just one person, but majority of people, then what are we talking about? So what are Nigerians as a whole saying about this economic growth, 3.4%, the highest in 7 years and all that coming?
Well, I was actually, while, before coming on air, I was reviewing this trend that is currently going on Twitter, that, a 5,000 naira, given to Nigerians, it's something that a lot of people are becoming more concerned. Let me see if I can pull that out, in just about a few minutes so that it cannot buttress. Yes, you're quite right. As much as the government might say the economy has grown a little bit, does not reflect to millions of Nigerians. So the diasporans have literally had to come in to support. Most Nigerians at home, people send money home, goods and different kind of things just to support them because of the economic situation in Nigeria. But what I can say is, I'm not sure whether this government coming up to tell us. Okay, I think I might be able to pick that from someone that put out on their Twitter feed. And this says the reflection of what Nigerians are literally facing as we speak right now. In terms of the poverty level is really something that is concerned to millions of Nigerians because that is really having a big toll on it. I haven't picked it up, but let me come back again first to you in the studio. But you're quite right. The economy has not really reflected on so many Nigerians back home at the moment.
Okay, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki, we are looking at some of the stories making the rounds across the globe. As I said earlier, if you have any suggestion or contribution to the program, feel free to post it on our Facebook page. Those of you who are still trying to travel outside there, I can tell you, I can see from the CCTV images coming in through to the studio that it's quite windy there. So please, if you can avoid traveling, do your best to avoid that. As you are saying, just stay in your home, wherever you are, and just listen to us on Starr Radio UK as we bring you all that you need to know pertaining to what is happening across the globe, especially this time around when we are bringing you updates from Nigeria. Okay, have you got it now?
Yes, this was by the finance minister, and this is what she has to say that has generated this conversation on the social media. Poverty reduction, 5,000 naira goes a long way for many Nigerians. And the question then is, how much is 5,000 naira? And let me bring that back to the exchange rate here in UK. So if I look at the exchange rate at about 780 this morning, so we're looking at about almost £7. So £7 is what the finance minister is saying that is more than enough, for about almost £6.50. So that has literally generated a lot of conversation, in terms of what the finance minister had to say. But let me first read what she has to say. The Minister for Affairs and Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, has said that 5,000 naira monthly national cash transfer to vulnerable households goes a long way in reducing poverty. She stated this yesterday during a briefing with the State House reporter in reaction with the relevance to the initiative of the federal government plan to pull out 100 million Nigerians from extreme poverty. I don't know how the government is going to do that in less than 11 months. If you look at the people you are taking this intervention to, 5,000 naira means a lot to them because these are poor and vulnerable households and it changed their status. But for you and me, 5,000 naira is not even enough for us to buy recharge card. That is the difference. These are the response from Nigerians on the social media on that particular. According to at Rodin007, 5,000 naira is equivalent to $10. Abacha $500 million loot released to Nigerian can go every Nigerian with about $1 million, and we still have over 100 million left. I advise US to pay even $10,000 to each Nigerian account next time they want to release looted funds. So let me talk about somebody else as well. According to Do You Know Niger _ the facility, which is fitted with a 5,000 liters water reservoir and a solar power electricity supply system, was commissioned on the 11th. I think this is something different entirely. Let's come back to this. Basically, according to Arishikola, basically in the northern part of Nigeria, 5,000 naira is a lot of money. Not in our western part, even a kid of 15 years makes 5,000 naira a day. Again, according to Adewumi Jeremiah, that is how they are saying Nigerians. They continue to put us into hardship and keep the rate at which poverty hits the citizen is very high, so that 5,000 naira can be like 1 million naira in their eyes. Only in Nigeria that the government will be praised for doing their primary task. We take one more, then come back to you in the studio. Again, more Nigerians are reacting to this particular 5,000 naira. In a city like Lagos, as a bachelor living on my own, spending minimum of 6,000 naira a day for food, but I look at the saving 1,000 naira a day and spend 5,000 naira a day for food instead. So 5,000 naira might be a lot for the vulnerables, but in reality, that is still not enough when you put it together with the basic things of life for these vulnerables in the first place.
It is sad. It is sad when our people do that and they think that they are doing them good, and they say that, oh look, we are doing something good, so praise us or sing our praises. I feel very ashamed because you're talking about 5,000 where people are talking about the fact that they spend about 6,000 naira a day. Now you give somebody 5,000 a month and then you say you've done them good. Really? Well, they have to sit up our leaders. But it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK. Let's move on to some other stories about the airline. I know back here, I mean, when you travel to Nigeria, you want to move from one point to the other. At times, the best way to go, especially when we know that our roads, we have problem with it, is to go via air. But these are cases where there are delays, there are flight cancellations, and blah, 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 and there are high cost in fares as well. So what is all that story about, sir?
Well, I saw a video yesterday, which I believe, some of the travelers, were probably traveling from a state to maybe another state, and the flight was meant to have taken off around 8 o'clock. But as at 11:30, when the live stream was going on, they were still at the airport. I think one person was even putting a call to the owner of the airline. This airline says, Air Peace, Dana, Arik, others blame unruly passengers, inadequate facilities for flight delay and cancellation. I'm not too sure how you want to blame the passenger. If the passenger is meant to travel at 8 o'clock and they've arrived and the check-in has been done properly, which has got nothing to do with the passenger. I mean, we travel around, this country as well. My expectation is to get to the train station. I don't have to know who is going to be the ticket officer, as long as I can get there and my ticket is checked and I can board the train or the airline. But that doesn't seem to be in Nigeria because they're blaming the passenger for being unruly. Mr. Yunus has stressed that flight delays and cancellation will reduce by 80%. Immediately relevant agencies attend to the fixable issues. According to what we know, airline operators of Nigeria has blamed unruly passengers in the country, including the Forex, inadequate airport facility for instant flight delays cancellation. I could understand the Forex, I could understand the inadequate airport facility that are so as messy as you might think of. Most of the airports in Nigeria, you can hardly even see a proper medical equipment, because there was a video that went viral a couple of weeks back or months when this passenger was on the tarmac. I mean, at the airport. We don't know what was wrong with him. There was not any kind of medical assistance. And how do you blame the passenger for that? Is something I'm not too sure. It is not in the interest of any airline, whether in Nigeria or anywhere else, to delay or cancel flight as this severe financial and image consequence. And what we do know in the past, and this is still happening, is sometimes they might be waiting for a VIP that is still at home, even not yet at their berth, while other passengers are already at the airport.
Well, listeners, Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. So if you are traveling from here to that part of the world, well, what do you think about it? Okay, now let's crack on. Let's look at some of the other stories making the rounds across the globe. Yes, Starr Radio UK. Now let's talk about Sunday IGBOHO. For 212 days, Benin has been holding IGBOHO in custody for an unknown crime. Any updates from there?
Well, what we can say is, there's still conversation between, myself and some of the team that are speaking with those on the ground in Benin Republic. I was able to speak before coming on air, but I won't go into too much details, to somebody very, very close to the case, and the assurance still says that it will be released very, very soon. But we should continue, with all the, the necessary things that we are doing, which is part of what we are still, complaining about the, is human right that is now being tampered by, and is right that is meant to be something that Benin Republic. We do know that Benin president was also Patrick Talon was also in Belgium attending, these, African EU summit that was going on over there. Yeah. And I'm not sure whether there will be time between him and Buhari that they'll be having a meeting. But what I do know is tomorrow, in less than 24 hours, will be 7 months that IGBOHO was literally stopped, not because he was creating havoc or problem in Benin Republic, but only for the fact that he was running away for his dear life, just as so many other individuals have done so in the past around the globe. But the difference is, his name was put up by the DSS. The Benin Republic stopped him thinking that he was a criminal until they went to the court. They realized that there was no crime on him. But the problem is they've held onto him in their country 7 months tomorrow.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. They've held onto him. Tomorrow will be 7 months since he was held. The question is, if you have any charges against him, bring those charges against him. Let's hear it. But you can't just hold on to him. And I'm worried about the fact that in Belgium, where they've met, I mean, you could have the president of Benin could have a chat with Buhari. Buhari says, you know what, just send him to us, we'll take care of him. And then, I don't trust, when it comes to African leaders, honestly, I don't trust them.
Well, you're quite right. I'm not sure that is going to ever happen because, first and foremost, we don't have any extradition treaty between Benin Republic and Nigeria. And the legal team has done everything to make sure that they pin him down there as well. Also, we do also know that, there was a legal aid that was meant to raise funds on behalf of a particular platform called Mayegu Political. But it doesn't look like GoFundMe is happy with that. And what GoFundMe has literally done is to stop that particular, legal aid fundraising on that particular platform. And the reason given is you cannot be allowed to use that platform, to raise money, on behalf of, this your individual. In terms, let me put that back on to say, okay, this is what happened. The fundraiser for Oloye Sunday IGBOHO legal aid by the GoFundMe has been removed. They said it is against their policy to raise money to challenge the law of the country. According to this individual, we are not challenging the law, but want an innocent man free. The £10,000 980 donation has now been refunded back to the 208 donors, according to him. And I believe they will have to look for another means to raise that fund to support Chief Sunday IGBOHO.
No, I don't get that. Crowdfunding. I don't get it. Can you throw a bit of light on that? Why they say that is illegal? I mean, crowdfunding.
Well, that's what we saw this morning. I mean, in 11 hours that the GoFundMe went live, £11,000, almost £11,000 was raised until GoFundMe pulled it out. We thought it was for documentation purpose, but only this morning for us to get a bit of more information that is got to do with, you can't use that platform to challenge the policy of, to challenge the law of the country. So what they are saying is, that particular fundraising cannot be used to challenge the law of Benin Republic.
Well, listeners, Starr Radio UK. Now let's talk about what is happening with NNAMDI KANU and the statement that he is also put across as well.
Well, we do know that again, NNAMDI KANU case is coming back on again on the 8th of April. But what we can say is it seems that the Nigerian government is running away from its court, and that is the way we looked at it. We discussed this when the legal team to MAZI KANU have continuously said that they need to give the reason and how NNAMDI KANU left Kenya. The 15-count charge against him is something that they said is thrown out of the water. It can't work. But we'll have to wait and see the response as the case will be coming back on again next in April.
Okay, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. Those who can't see me, don't worry. The technical team is working on my visual feed, and therefore once we have it up, you will see me. But let's go to what is happening on the social media platform. Yes.
Well, the one that of interest to me when I woke up this morning was that particular young man that was on his way from Jos to Kaduna, if I'm right. The vehicle was stopped, which is a normal thing because of the insecurity. But until they were all told to come out, and it doesn't look like the military were pleased with his hairstyle. The question is now asking is, do we still have rights in Nigeria, with a question mark? I have always been this is him speaking now, in his street speed. I have always been a patriotic Nigerian in speech and in action. But today, I experienced the most embarrassing and humiliating thing in my life. I have had this before happen to people, but it became real to me. He talked about the couple of them that were traveling, coming to Jos from Kaduna. We have passed several checkpoints, but on arriving at the checkpoint at Kumi Idom, a military man asked us all to come down. He told my friends to take off their caps. I was the only one with much air. So he insulted me, called me irresponsible because I was not on a low cut, comparing me with my friends. He went further to say I should go to a nearby barbering salon to cut my hair. If not, he won't let us to go, which I wasn't ready to do. So he asked his other colleagues to cut my hair with scissors. I pulled back. Immediately, the other military guy cocked his gun to shoot me, and the other attempt to hit me with the head of his rifle. So I stood, and the guy put the scissors into my hair. I was really pained, not because of my hair, but because of how hopeless I was and what our hashtag Nigerian military has become. The military guy who tried to shoot at me kept calling me names and even said my parents must be useless to allow me move around with my hairstyle. These are what Nigerians are facing. This is what led to the NSAS. I've read all the comments, and some say he has just actually eaten his own breakfast.
Wow. I mean, so can this guy take the military to court for this action? Can he?
Well,
yeah.
The question is then, you would expect that is the next now. People are giving numbers, but somebody on the comment thread that I've read says that it's not the first time. That particular location is part of what they do. And let me pick up some of the comments that this is still trending as we speak right now. Right now, according to the last paragraph, I am shocked, demoralized, hopeless about Nigeria. Hashtag human rights in Nigeria is a failed cause. A lot of people have been talking about that, but more Nigerians do not believe that. This person says, welcome to the zoo. That is all I can say. Running to another country ain't the best option. This other person says, very sorry that we have bad eggs everywhere. Those you encounter are one, because that will be part of what we're going to discuss only on social media today. When he saw that I wasn't ready to beg, he said I should bring out a means of ID. If not, I am a terrorist. Fortunately, I had an ID on me. When he saw the issue of the ID, that is when he calmed down and started giving fatherly advice. So a lot of Nigerians have faced this before. It is not the first time. It won't be the last time. But the question is, for how long can Nigerians hold on to these atrocity and this crime against humanity that is taking place? And before I come back again to you in the studio, Olatunji Awofeso says, before giving 5,000 naira to Nigeria, the federal government should embark on a genuine population census in order to know who is the genuine Nigerian and who is qualified to get 5,000 naira. Because we know we have about almost close to 2,000 porous borders that we don't know who is living with us. So if they're giving 5,000 naira to those in the northern part of the country, they're probably dashing away more people that are not real Nigerians in the first place.
They could even be giving it to this ice swap and all honestly. Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. When has it become a crime for you to have a bushy hair in Nigeria? So now everybody has to have a low haircut, like I have mine, or maybe Yomi cannot grow his hair and be in Nigeria. The military person can. When has it become a crime? Well, we want to hear from you. But that has been update from Nigeria. Yomi, before you go.
Well, somebody says everything scatter like scatter. That is, from one of our listeners in Dublin. I would like to say stay tuned with Starr Radio UK. We have our money man that will be speaking to us later on for those of you that are in UK, because there's a lot of pressure here in UK as well. Inflation, the gases and everything is up. But for your weekend, it's all about Starr Radio UK, where you have to know everything. But you can visit us on www.starradiouk.org.com where you can find all the latest news and details of everything that you need to know on starradiouk.com And I'll be back again on Monday where we continue with the conversation. But you can join me on my social media handles where we continue to have a lot of conversation as the election is getting closer as well.
Thank you very much, Yomi, for that wonderful update, and we'll catch up later, sir.
Thank you very much.
Right. Okay, listeners, that has been updates from Nigeria, a very lengthy one, but I know that we fed you, your hunger or your thirst when it comes to information. Okay? Yes, it is Starr Radio UK. 9 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm going to take a break. Starr Radio UK. 9 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm going to take a break. And once we come back, we'll look at some of the stories making the rounds across the globe. So stay tuned. Don't you go away. Stop.